Good evening, YouTube. Jonathan here. We're going to be talking about Chapter 3 and 4. Chapter 3 of Eragon is called Dragon Tales. I did get a comment that mentioned all the times that I say and my awkward pauses. I'm going to do my best to not do that anymore. Apologize about that. No, I'm just kidding. So there's three things that I wanted to talk about from Chapter 3, and I did take your advice and write it all down. Hopefully this will work out better. Number one, Eragon as an orphan. Why do I think it's important that Eragon is an orphan? He's the main character, the obvious protagonist in the story. Not to sound heartless, okay, but in a sense it gives Eragon much greater freedom than other characters that are not orphans. Let's think about Roran, for example, who was born in Carvajal just like Eragon was. Eragon's history, I guess, is given in this chapter here, and his mother came. We find out that he's 16 years old. His mother came and had the baby, had a baby and named him Eragon, and left and was never seen again. So Roran was born in Carvajal just like Eragon was. However, Roran's plans are to get married to Katrina and to stay in Carvajal. His plans are a little bit more grounded. At this point, we don't know what Eragon's plans are or if he even has any. So he can take a more loner individualist role in his growing up years. He can take on more of a, hey, I'm going to go into the spine and hunt by myself type thing. Apparently it was his aunt who revealed the news to Eragon that he was not their blood child. Why she waited until she was about to die to tell him that, I have no idea. I think that's kind of heartless. I think that's kind of mean. Thoughtless. I think that there's much better ways to break it to somebody, but instead of like, listen, before I die, I just want you to know you're not actually my son. Okay, thanks. That's all I wanted to say. See you later. Well, apparently she tells him the whole story, but I don't think it was a great idea. But it is important, I think, for his character development. Eragon has learned through that to become more self-sufficient, which shows in the fact that nobody in all of Carvajal will go into the spine, but he will, and he does it by himself. The second thing I wanted to mention about Chapter 3 was the two traders who were in Morn's tavern talking about the Varden, talking about Urgals, talking about the Empire and all those things. These traders, I personally believe that Galbatorix hired these two guys. Looking at it from the perspective of I've never read the book before, you can still see that they're full of it. Even the townspeople are like, you guys are full of lies. You're just lying to us. I personally think that they were hired for these reasons, okay? Uphold the king's image and create, hopefully, a greater support for the Empire and to spread rumors about the Varden and get people to be against the Varden. Why do I think that? What are my reasons for that? One of these traders, okay, apparently was extremely overweight and could barely fit into a chair. And he had baby soft hands, showing that he'd never done a day's work. The other guy was thinner, is a thinner companion, but he had very expensive jewelry on his hand. I think rings on his hand, out on display for all to see. So knowing that Paolini has made it evident that these are difficult times, these are lean times, that food is scarce, that money is tight, it's cold, it's winter time, these guys don't seem to be showing the effects of the times. They don't quite fit the description of the townspeople and the traders themselves. The women, the female traders, the other ones, they had small daggers on them. The other ones had swords or knives or whatever strapped onto themselves. And these guys, what do they have? Well, one guy's huge, and he needs a little bit more slim fast, and the other guy has jewelry on, just out on display. I think they were hired. I think they were hired to infiltrate the traitors. The third and most important thing I wanted to talk about in this vlog is Brom's speech. Here we have our introduction to Brom the storyteller. He's got a rippling white beard and bowed shoulders, kind of showing his age. During Brom's oration, Paulini gives reference to his eyes. It says over and over again things that he does with his eyes. His gaze lingered on Eragon. He searched the faces of the people who were listening intently. He looked down in sadness. He looked around slowly, and lastly, he cried, which by the way happens in the eye area. I think these things are showing of a keen mind, however an old body. Apparently this isn't the first time that Brom has shared this story, as Garo said that he had heard it before, but it is Eragon's first time hearing it, I believe. How coincidental that he would share it in this particular time. So what does Brom give us in this story? He gives us incredible insight into the history of this story that we've been thrust into. We're given a much better picture of this world and are now able, in a sense, to choose a side. Up until this point, there hasn't been a clear definition of protagonist and antagonist. There hasn't been, except in small ways, like when Eragon and Sloane had an argument. You knew that Eragon was the protagonist, Sloane was the antagonist. But now it is as if our eyes are open just a little bit wider, and we're able to see the scope of what we've got ourselves into. Thousands of years of history in a quick 5 or 10 minute speech. We learn of Galbatorix's rise to power, his defeat of Vriel, the leader of the Dragon Riders, his 13 Forsworn, his mental state. How can we trust that Brom is telling the truth? I think we can trust him. I think that we can trust him because if Galbatorix truly was a good guy, well, first, the thing is, coming from the perspective of I'm hearing this story as Brom's telling it, I'm in Carvajal listening to Brom, did the Dragon Riders truly exist? I think that that is a well-known thing. I think that the Dragon Riders have taken on a mythical quality, but I think that most people, the general consensus is, yes, the Dragon Riders did in fact exist. And Galbatorix is, in fact, a Dragon Rider. Dragons do exist, or at least did exist, and there's no question about that. So we can trust, then, that if he's telling the story saying that the Dragon Riders existed, we know that that's true. Did the Dragon Riders fight somebody who was really actually a good guy? No. Galbatorix is a bad guy. So can we trust Brom? Yes. If they did exist to protect and serve, then obviously they would be against what Galbatorix was out to do. If Galbatorix was really a good guy, then certainly they would have given him another dragon, or at least there wouldn't have been a battle between the riders and him. Galbatorix and Morzan apparently hid in a place so evil that even the mighty Dragon Riders wouldn't venture there. Very interesting point there. It leads me to my questions. Well, real quick, first, fast growth in evil power and apparently a vengeful attitude convinced 12 more to join Galbatorix, and those 13 plus Galbatorix were able to overthrow the entire Dragon Rider council and all these guys. Now, how many Dragon Riders were there? Because there's 14 guys, okay? So those 14 must have been ridiculously powerful. So Vriel's the last one left, and Galbatorix defeated him in battle with a kick in the nuts. Do I think a kick in the nuts is an underhanded blow? No. There's two options in battle, kill or be killed. If you got to kick a guy in the nuts, you're just going to have to kick him in the nuts. Do I think that Galbatorix cheated? No. It was either die or I could kick you in the nuts and then I'll kill you and then I will be alive and you won't be. All's fair in war. It's interesting that this final battle took place on Utgard Mountain, which is very, very close to Carvajal. Personally, if I were Eragon, I would probably want to visit this place. Well, personally, if I were Eragon, I'd be wanting to visit all these places, but definitely that one since it's so close. Here's some questions that I have from this. Who was the Shade who taught Galbatorix evil and powerful things? And where is he now? How many riders were there at the time when Galbatorix and the 13 Forsworn rose to power? Where is this place so evil that riders not even dare to go there? And how did the Urgals defeat 3 dragon riders? When, well, we haven't gotten to this point in the story yet, but Eragon has a confrontation with a couple of Urgals, and, you know, Brahm as well. So, how did the Urgals defeat 3 dragon riders that apparently have finished their training with the dragon riders? Granted, Brahm does say that the dragon riders had grown arrogant in their power and they kind of sped up the process. Oh, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine, kind of thing, you know. Oh yeah, no, they're ready, they're fine, they're ready to go. It's kind of like pulling a cookie out of the oven just before it's absolutely perfect, and what you're left with is kind of a hot mush instead of that nice gooey chocolate chip cookie with the crisp on the outside, and you're like, man, this is the best freaking creation on freaking planet Earth right now. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And real quick with Chapter 4, Fate's Gift. In this chapter, a dragon hatches out of the blue stone and thus begins the beginning of the end, so to speak. Only one thing to mention here. Eragon sleeps with a knife under his pillow. Does he think that someone's going to come in and molest him? Or is that just how he was brought up? Or, I mean, did Ronan regularly sneak in and beat him up in his sleep? I mean, if I were going to sleep with a knife, I would probably want it closer to my hand and not my head. I don't know, that's just me. So that's it for now. This is a long video. I realize that. I apologize. Hopefully you guys have made it to this point. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your comments. Feel free to continue the discussion. I'm excited. We're going to start getting in some really good chapters now that we're out, and now that the dragon has hatched, so to speak. Okay.